They have dealt treacherously with Yahweh, for they have begotten pagan children. That is huge. That is amazing. Israel started begetting pagan children because they entered a pagan religion, a pagan doctrine. It says pagan, but the literal translation of it from the Hebrew would be strange, because they are not Yahweh's children. So that's why they translated also as pagan, because they taught their children, their people, their sheep falsehood. So they have dealt treacherously with Yahweh, like a harlot, pretty much. For they have begotten strange children. They have had children with other entities. Just like, for instance, as a pastor, and we see it in scriptures, even though I have seen some other people, perhaps from not understanding certain things or seeing some issues with Christianity, they go against this that I'm about to say. But in scriptures, we find that there are two types of parents: spiritual and physical. So the physical is the obvious, the genetical parent, which puts his seed in a woman, and then Yahweh forms that baby in that woman, and then there's a baby who is the son or daughter of these two people. On the other hand, we see in scriptures that when a person teaches the spiritual way to the Almighty, to somebody, and that somebody believes in it, connects with that teaching, and puts it to practice and starts doing what he has learned, that person becomes a spiritual son, because the teacher would be putting the seed, which is the word of Yahweh, in that person through the ruach in which that person is immersed. The ruach is feminine. The pastor, the head of the congregation, as Paul said, should be male. So the pastor as a male and the ruach as a female are the ones that give birth to the person that believes in the congregation. So that person becomes a child of Yahweh through that man who taught him the word of Yahweh, which is the seed. So that man becomes the spiritual father of that person. The issue with that is that many people began to tell the people that they wanted to be called fathers. So then they became like they just wanted the title, they wanted the honor, and a bunch of other things, and they were teaching their spiritual children to go towards Satan, because as we see here, they have begotten strange children. So they are not Yahweh's children, those whom the Pharisees were saying that they were Yahweh's children, or Elohim's children, as they would say. So we see in scriptures many times that a pastor, a preacher, is the spiritual father of those in whom he has placed the seed of Yahweh, which is the word of Yahweh, the name Yahushua HaMashiach. And that's why the witness like Moshe, is represented by Yaakov, who became Israel, the father of the 12 tribes, because the last comes and through the doctrine of Yahushua becomes the father of the 144,000, the 12 tribes. So they have dealt treacherously with Yahweh, for they have begotten strange children. Now a month shall devour them and their heritage. This verse is huge. Now a month shall devour them and their heritage. Some translations write new moon, but that's not what it says, as I have explained in previous studies. They normally translate Chodesh as new moon. Chodesh actually means month, and comes from Chadash, which means new. So it could be translated as new month. However, Yahweh in this case is not talking about one day, which is the new month, the first day of the month. He's talking about the whole month, so 30 days, in which the many who rejected two witnesses and killed them will have to die and then be justified and resurrected as the people of Israel under the few who would be the kings and priests of Israel, because they have had strange children. It says they will be consumed in a chodesh, in a month, they and their portions. So that's what the verse says. Um, and well, with the all the things that I have been saying regarding this chapter shows how the apostasy and those who are within it, they will hear the true doctrine through the two witnesses, reject it, kill them. They will die, resurrect, and go up to heaven, and then they will start seeking the presence of Yahweh, but it will be too late because they had just killed them by that time. So that's when they will have to die for 30 days. I'll explain it again with other points. In the book of Daniel, we see that there is a last week of Daniel. In Daniel 9, we see that there will be 70 weeks of years, 490 years, of which the first 69 weeks have already been fulfilled, 483 years since Mashiach died. So we have 7 years left. That would start once Yahweh is done gathering the Gentiles. So pretty much Melo HaGoim, Ephraim within the Gentiles. And then the two witnesses appear to tell the true doctrine and close with history, pretty much. And that is the time when the many will have to do with killing the two witnesses, which will be killed at the half of the last 7 years. So there are 7 years, the two witnesses appear and preach for 3.5 years, then they are killed in the half of the 7 years. In that moment, well, they are dead for 3.5 days, they resurrect, they go up. That's Revelation 12, when Michael takes Satan out of heaven. Satan comes down to heaven, to earth, claiming to be Christ. Most people will accept him, but some of the false doctrine, which I call the many, well, the scripture calls the many, they will realize their problem after killing the two witnesses. When the false Messiah appears, some in the false doctrine, who are the many, will realize that the two witnesses were right regarding the doctrine. So they will try to avoid getting the mark of the beast. Yet, since they did not believe in the two witnesses, they won't be harvested as the chosen few who won't have to experience death during the second Exodus. Instead, the many will have to die during the Great Tribulation for 30 days, as this verse says, because of their apostasy, because of the rejection of the two witnesses, for not knowing Yahweh when they decided to seek his presence. They will have to die, and in that way they will pay for a sin, because death is the wage of sin. So because of their rebellion, the apostasy of the past 2,000 years, which they did not want to reject once the two witnesses told them that it was wrong, they will have to give their own bodies, and then Yahweh will resurrect them to show them that he's the only Elohim. They will realize it, finally accept him and worship him forever, because he is good and merciful, and he's justified them in judgment, even though they rejected salvation when the two witnesses offered it to them. So it says, they dealt treacherously with Yahweh, for they have begotten strange children. Now a month shall devour them and their heritage. So in a month they will be consumed. 30 days, which actually, interestingly enough, are the days in which we are right now. We are in the 8th month, which is called Mar Cheshvan, which is known as a month of bitterness, because it is the month in the whole year that has no feast within it, and nothing special as the other months that have either a feast or a fast or something to celebrate, commemorate. This month doesn't, and it has to do with the flood, and it has to do with the fact that during most of the these days of this month, even though the month has 30 days, the 30 days that we are seeing here are most likely will start before the 8th month, because, as I was saying, 7 years they killed the two witnesses in the half, which is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, the 10th of the 7th month. After 5 days, it is Sukkot, which represents the second Exodus. So, the two witnesses are killed on Yom Kippur. 3 days and a half later, they are resurrected. So, day and a half later, Satan falls. That is Sukkot, when the chosen few should go to the mountains, as Yahushua said, to the wilderness, because he will claim to be the Messiah. A lot of people will accept him. The many will realize that they were wrong, and they either will reject the mark when they come to put it on them, or they will try to flee. Yet, since they are not of the chosen few, they will not be harvested. So they will have to either wait for a while or die during that time of 30 days. All seems to point to it started in Sukkot, which is the 15th. So it will be 15 days and 15 days, pretty much. 15 days, the last 15 days of the 7th month and the first 15 days of the 8th month. In 30 days, the many will die. The many are represented by the number 3, just like the few are represented by the number 1, like in Daniel, when there were 4, Daniel and his 3 friends. Daniel represents the few, and his friends represent the many. We already read Daniel, so you can go and check it out if you like, so that you see how that representation is shown throughout the whole book. So they will be devoured in a month, which starts on Sukkot, the 7th month. So one could say that they will be devoured in the 7th month. However, because of the connections that I said regarding this month, I believe this month in which we are, the 8th month of the year, is the representation of those 30 days in which the many will die.